We're live. Oh my gosh, we're live.
Alive and live.
Alive and live streaming on our liveliness on a
We're gonna talk about
Tuesday.
Ninja Turtles again.
Yeah. So screw you people who don't want to talk about Ninja Turtles again. We don't care.
We're gonna do
Cause
it anyway.
honestly, I mean, right off the bat, this is honestly the better of the two movies by a long shot. And I already knew that, but watching it after decades of not having seen it, yeah, it's good. I mean, it's a good movie. Like
I
it's not
gotta say, I
just a good
agree.
Turtles movie. It's not just a good movie for kids question mark because it gets pretty dark, but yeah, it was a really excellent introduction to the Ninja Turtles in a cinematic form. I was Yeah, I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, I
Derek, your
agree.
thoughts?
I agree overall. Last week when we talked about it with Brad, when we talked about the second one with Brad, I was maybe not convinced, but pretty sure that I liked the second one better than the first one. But in watching it again, that was almost purely, I think, nostalgia driven,
Right.
because seeing just the tone of the first one, the way that the fights were done, the respect that it gave to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic books and the source material, it is just, I think, an elevation in every way. And I think in the second one, bringing it down to make it more kid friendly, to brighten up the color palette, and to just make it a little bit more digestible for the general public really hurts the movie or the movies in nearly every way.
Yeah,
So I mean,
unfortunately.
I know we're gonna go in and kind of discuss in some details. So
Mhm.
I don't want to give away too much, but
Yeah.
yeah, overall, it was a much better film than the second one, and even the third one. I started watching the third one, and I wasn't able to get through the entirety of the third one. But just, I mean, right off the bat, that one is kind of the inferior one of the group. It's not having the Jim
Yeah.
Henson creature shop was really, really, really bad. But they had him in the
Mhm.
first one. This is one of the last films, if not the last film, that Jim Henson worked on. And so
Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1 is our choice for today. So today we're going to play a game called Sequilitis,
Ah!
which is, we're talking about a movie that we've already watched previously during After the Credits. And although this is kind of going backwards from the way we initially intended this game to be played,
Prequelitis.
yeah, prequelitis is more like it. We're going to talk about the similarities, differences, successes, failures across the different movies of the franchise. Specifically, today, I think we're going to mostly focus on the first two films, and
Mhm.
especially the first one, since we've already done a deep dive with Brad on the second one. So let's get into it. We kind of already gave our overall opinions of the movie. But
Yeah.
Elin, I want to start you off with, how do you feel like this one, the first one, compares to Secret of the Ooze specifically?
I mean, honestly, this one is cinema. The second one is a cartoon brought to life.
Okay, I think that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. Like a live action cartoon is what The Secret of the Ooze is, because there's not a lot of depth, there's not a lot of, simultaneous plot points or storylines going and weaving in and out of each other. It is just, here's the thing, here's the thing, here's the thing, and let's stitch it all together, and it's going to be fun for kids. That's Secret of the Ooze. Whereas this one, yeah, I mean, it deals with some pretty dark, pretty intense, pretty dramatic things.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they intended this at all to be for kids.
Yeah, no, they
Um,
definitely didn't. The
yeah.
director, Steve Barron, He's in several documentaries, which is awesome because technically he was fired from this film right at the very end, which still
Oh,
blows my mind. They basically completed the movie. They did an initial screening for studio execs, and they were like, "What the hell is this? Where are our toys? Like, where, you know?" And so, you know, we talked when we talked with Brad about Secret of the Ooze, we talked about some of the issues with like British ratings boards and censorship and things like
yeah.
that. And that's really, I think, ultimately where that conflict started. Because
Mm.
ultimately, it seems like in all the interviews and all the behind the scenes footage that I've watched, where everybody talks about Steve Barron, the one thing that everybody seems in unison about, other than the people that worked, you know, some of the people that worked for the studio, was that he had like a singular vision and he knew exactly what he wanted from the movie. In fact, this movie is sometimes sourced as like the reason for the conflict between the two creators of the Ninja Turtles,
Oh, yeah.
because as we talked about in the last one of them was very, very you know, focused on making the comic book into a movie and kind of wanted to see the pages brought to life, which is what a lot of this movie has. And then when the studio decided after the success of the first one to immediately go, the second one was released almost a year to the day from the first one.
Yeah.
So they like fast tracked it and everything. And their whole idea was to just get rid of as many obstacles as they could, which is why it became more lighthearted and more kid friendly. And that's where that, you know, the one creator was just happy that they were getting success, that they were seeing this global success from something that they had created. And the other one was like, but it's not what we created. It's like a revision of what we created that's been filtered through the Saturday morning cartoon action figure lens, and now
Yes.
this is what we have. So he seemed pretty happy, at least initially, with Steve Barron's vision of the movie, as did most of the other cast and crew. And then at the end, when the censorship stuff started, that's kind of when they were like, okay, we need to pivot, because even though to date, when the movie was released, or I think up until it was beat in the late 90s, early 2000s, the first TMNT was the most successful independent film, highest grossing independent film
No
of
way.
all time. Of all time, that record was not beat until the Blair Witch Project was released.
Whoa.
Isn't
Wow.
that crazy?
Yeah.
Because the studio that released it they essentially worked with the studio that did Enter the Dragon, Hong Kong Kung Fu Studio,
Oh, yeah.
and so it was considered an independent film because it was financed completely by the production, not by the publishers. And so, yeah, highest grossing independent movie until it was dethroned by the Blair Witch Project.
Well, pretty deserved. I mean, honestly,
I
after
agree.
giving it a watch, it was, yeah,
I
it's,
agree.
I mean, like not only even the funny parts, like the funny parts are genuinely funny.
Hmm.
Whereas Secret of the Ooze is funny for kids and very, again, cartoonish humor. Um, whereas, you know, Casey Jones in this first one, he's got some great lines
Yeah, they all
and
do.
like,
They all do.
yeah, and so just like some genuine humorous moments, um, as
I think
opposed to
that
just like kind of slapstick kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think in TMNT two, what I notice about the comedy in that one versus this one is the turtles being funny, by being turtles. Like they're, you know, they're just describing the things that are going on. They're having a good time. The things that they say are genuinely funny. Whereas in the second one, they took things that other people said that were funny and just had the turtles do those things. Like there's a lot of
Right.
impressions, a lot of callbacks to like other movies and a lot of things. And I feel like this one has a little bit less of that.
Hmm.
Um, but I also think it's just the first one, I mean, is a better written film. I
Yeah.
think the cinematography in it actually feels like cinematography. There are some
Hmm.
really, really great low exposure shots. There's one in
Yeah.
particular that I know, again, from the commentary and stuff, Steve Barron really focused on. All the Jim Henson creature shop people were like, don't get in real close to the turtles, and don't get in close to Splinter and whatever, because it'll take the magic away. Like, people will see the seams and they'll see the stuff. They'll see kind
Mhm.
of the how the sausage is made. And he was like, no, I have to. Like, in this one scene, I want a close up of Splinter's hand lighting a candle, and then I want in the same
Yeah.
shot to go in. And he's like, if we need to darken it up and make it moody, he's like, that's fine. That's what I want. I want it to be dark and gritty. If we need to hide some of that stuff. And it's like one of the best shots in the movie. It's
Yeah,
like
because
such a great shot.
you can see Raph like
Yeah.
through that lens of his arm and then lighting the candle. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some focus pulling that happens as the camera goes from his hand to Raph's face and then to Splinter's face. Like,
Mhm.
it's really, really cool. It's a really, really well done shot. And it's just, I feel like that is like an example of somebody who had a passion for the film that they were working on,
Mhm.
trying to think of creative ideas for how, number one, not only how to tell a great story and give it like that impact, but two, just knowing what he's working with. Like, he knew the limitations of the both the medium and the puppets and the
Mhm.
animatronics and everything. And he
Yeah.
really just brought all that together and was like, I don't want to compromise on anything. I know what our weaknesses are. I know what our strengths are. Let's bring them together. Bravo to Steve Barron. Very,
Yeah.
very, very well done.
Once again, didn't use their uh weapons much.
Hmm.
They did a little bit in this one. Like even Leonardo when he slashes Shredder's
His
upper
arm.
arm. Yeah. Yeah. I was
Hmm.
like, hey.
They definitely use them because even the hey, a fellow chucker, where they're doing their little thing. There's
Right.
like a whole scene of that, and even something that we didn't really bring up last time. I think we touched on it a little bit, but along with the weapons, another thing that there was like huge issues with for the second one was shots of the turtles actually going into the sewer, and then there's, in this one at least, there's a whole series of shots of the foot soldiers going into the sewer, into drainage, and things like that. And that was something that was cut out for the second one, where in this one, I'm actually surprised that they got the shots, because in the behind the scenes, they talk about how all of those scenes had to be shot on a backlot because they weren't
Whoa.
actually filming in New York. So they just had this
Yeah.
one New York backlot from the De Laurentiis Studios, which I guess
Mm.
used to be the Carol Coast Studios or whatever. They had like a New York street. And if you pay close attention, you'll see every single New York shot is filmed on that same set. The rooftop is in that same set. The drainage is on that same set. The street
Yeah.
shot is that same set. It's literally the same set, same angle, and everything.
Right.
So it's pretty funny, but I think it's great. It's great how they did it. You do get some of the weapon fighting, but it's not
Mhm.
focused on that as much, which
Right.
may have been like a Jim Henson thing. I'm not sure. Um,
I know
so
Raph always like presents his size and
yeah,
then he
threatens
always like
them.
and then he like puts it so like the pointy end is like pointing down and he just uses them as like defensive weapons,
Hmm.
But I really like Raph in this song. I mean, I know he's like the hothead and he always like goes out on his own and gets in trouble, just like in the second one. But yeah, I don't know. I really like just how different how it showcases just how different these turtles are. I mean, Raph in particular, they definitely focus on him a lot. Donatello, not so much. Donatello is just kind of there,
Hmm.
just to, add to the dialogue or whatever. But, Raph and Leonardo getting in, heated discussions and stuff. Like, yeah, again, these things are going to happen when you have four turtles who have different personalities. And yeah, it serves the story well. And because I remember when I was a kid, I was like, oh man, why did Raph have to go do that? Like, what? He's such a. Why can't he just like, calm himself down or whatever? Like, but like, I get it now. you know, you got to have drama, you got to have conflict, and you know.
Well, and the conflict that he's upset about is justified in this first one. I
Yeah,
feel like in the second one, I guess it's a little justified if you really believe that their only course of action is to get Kino in with the rest of the foot soldiers in kind of like an undercover, way. But it's also kind of what they do in this one, with Casey going in and trying to get Danny, who's already in with the Foot Clan, to
right.
kind of get them some info. I much preferred the way that they did it in this movie because it feels organic, whereas in the second one it just kind of feels like they're repeating stuff. The only way the second one is better from a character perspective, in my opinion, is what you kind of pointed out, is that Donatello, and it's not even really done that well, but
Yeah,
Donatello is on the computer, he's like the hacker guy where they're at
right,
TGRI trying to find the canister. And then when Professor Perry is creating the mutagen again for Toka and Razor, like Donatello's helping him with the sciencey part,
right.
like, so you kind of get a little bit more of the sciencey stuff with Donatello. Whereas
Mhm.
in this one, it's Corey Feldman, and I think they just leaned too far into the Corey Feldman thing. He's more of like
Yeah,
a sidekick to Michelangelo than he is his own character, kind of, sort of.
right, right.
So I don't think it did that as successfully. Actually, while we're on that topic, what do you think that this film didn't do as successfully as the second one, and maybe even the third one, if you want to go there? I think there's very little that the third one actually does better. So
Honestly, I haven't even seen the third one since I saw it in the theater as a kid.
okay,
So,
fair enough, fair enough.
yeah,
It's hard. It's a hard digest for sure.
yeah, because isn't that what like? Because I know it's not Jim Henson, but so they look a little different, of course. But even then, like, aren't they like really spotty? Aren't there like a lot
Mhm.
of like visible spots?
Yeah, the costumes are totally different in the third one.
Yeah,
They're very it's almost like they're low res versions of the original ones. Like
right.
the original ones have so much more detail in the patterns and the texture and everything. And then the
Mhm.
third one, they're just kind of like smooth. And they had like this nice gradient pattern that shows the spots in the first two movies. The
Mm,
second one, it's the same pattern, but it's a little brighter to make up for the lack of those dark shots and the dark exposure on everything. But in
yeah,
the third one, it's like totally different. They just like it's almost like they have freckles. They like popped a couple
right.
freckles on them, and then we're like, all right, it's good enough. Like, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, difference that the Secret of the Ooze did better than the first one was definitely all technical in my mind.
Agreed.
Um, just
And mostly just with the costumes and puppetry.
right. Because yeah, like when they toss Raph through the glass into the antique shop,
Hmm.
when he hits the ground and then when they're interacting with him, you can clearly tell that it's a rubber suit.
Hmm. Oh
Just
yeah, his
the
shell
how it
like flexes and
yeah,
stuff.
his shell
Yeah.
just bends, as they're putting their weight on it, whatever. So that's one aspect. But but yeah, just the ability for their mouths to move when they're actually speaking, it's very minimal. you know,
Hmm.
it's just, I mean, it might as well just be like an anime show, just an anime show that you're watching because it's basically just their mouths just flapping
I mean, that
open
is
and shut.
essentially how they had it set up in the first movie. It's
Yeah.
literally they had, I think they say in the behind the scenes that they have 5 expressions that they cycle between, and then the mouth opens and closes. So that's
Mhm.
essentially, I mean, that's basically what they could do is open and close the mouth. And then while the mouth was opening and closing, they could independently pick one of 5 expressions that they could pick. Actually, if you really want to see, if anybody watching wants to see a pretty good breakdown, the pacing and editing is not the greatest, but there was a documentary called Turtle Power that was on
Mm.
Kickstarter a few years ago that I backed. So you can still watch, you can still get the DVD. I don't know that it's on streaming, but you could still pick up the documentary. The stuff that they highlight in it is really, really great. And actually, there's a new documentary that the same group, I think, is releasing as like an updated version. They got a
Oh,
ton more footage. They found a ton more VHS tapes. Both
wow.
Kevin Laird or Peter, yeah, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird are both involved in it. They have interviews from everybody involved in the production.
Wow.
So a lot of cool updates. It's a really good behind the scenes look at kind of the movie, and they spend a ton of time talking about those technical differences between the puppets and how much of an improvement the second film
Mhm.
was, and then how much kind of a downgrade the third movie was.
So have you seen this updated modern version?
No, it's not out yet. They actually
Okay.
just they just hit their Kickstarter goal, I think earlier in the year, and they
Oh,
just
nice.
announced like back in March that one of the creators found a box of VHS tapes that has a ton of old footage, some of the cartoon stuff,
Hmm.
interviews, screen tests, things like that. And so they're waiting to get all that footage from him so they can digitize it, pour through it, and kind of see all of that stuff. But there's a ton. There's so much cool stuff that they're planning on releasing, and considering that they already did it once with the original documentary
Mhm.
Turtle Power, I'm really excited to see what they're going to come up with.
So when you said it's kind of hard to watch because of the pacing and the editing, you're talking about the documentary itself?
Correct. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
The documentary just feels like a first time documentary from somebody,
Mm.
which is fine. But they, they made a lot of motion graphics for stuff, and there's a lot of cool things. And I think in most documentaries, when you're showing that kind of stuff, you'd have other information being delivered on the screen as well. Either somebody talking, dialogue, giving a background on that or whatever. But
Right.
there's just very like, now watch this cool graphic that we made, and then it goes on for way longer than it needs to, and then they cut back to interviews, and then it's like,
Uh,
okay, now watch this graphic that we made. And it's very, very oddly paced, but the
yeah.
content is great. The content is very, very, very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, I also want to give Arrow Video a kudos on the trilogy. The
Mhm.
content that they have on the Blu-rays in this trilogy is fantastic. Whether you like all the movies or not, I think it's worth the additional content just
Yeah.
because they do some stuff. There's several interviews on both the TMNT I and TMNT II discs that are exclusive to Arrow that they filmed last year. One
Wow.
of which is the commentary and full interview with Steve Barron, the director of the first one. They have a commentary and interview with the director of the second one. I know there's a commentary. I'm trying to think if there is an interview. But there's just a ton of stuff. They have interviews with cast that I haven't seen before because they were all filmed exclusively for Arrow. There's um, interview with like the mold designer of the guy that made the costumes and did the molds for them originally. There's a ton of stuff that Arrow did that you can only get with that release, and I feel like that's what I get physical media for, is those unique things that you can't really get anywhere else. They don't show
Mhm.
on streaming. It's really,
Right.
really cool. I appreciate it very, very much.
So that's your friendly reminder to embrace physical media for all those watching and listening.
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's cool.
It really
And when the
is,
when the
man.
internet goes away and society goes away, then you'll still have your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle trilogy discs.
Yeah. I mean, we're because you might have to move up here and live on our property because we're fully solar. So even if the
Nice.
power grid goes down, we'll still have entertainment here.
Nice. And you'll have a theater shed, so,
Yes,
or a shed
huge
theater,
one.
whichever one you want to call it. Okay. Next question. What thematic difference we've touched on this a little bit, but what thematic differences are there between the films?
Um, there is a theme in the first one.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
There
Agree on
are
that too.
thematic moments in the first one, as opposed to just these caricatures of the Ninja Turtles doing things and fighting people and saying juvenile funny things for kids to laugh at. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's what the Secret of the Ooze is to me. Um, again, like it was great seeing Secret of the Ooze in the theater, especially with that lady laughing at everything next to me. Um, but yeah, watching this, watching the first one, because I knew it was better, but wow, it's just night and day. Yeah, just thematically, the fact that there is a a storyline with Danny and his dad, and how that comes all full circle. Getting into the weeds of, oh, I want to join the Foot Clan because my dad is a dick, and I don't want to go to school, and this seems pretty cool because you just do whatever you want and whatever. Yeah, teenage angst and rebellion. And then he finally comes around, the whole thing at the very end where he's like, Dad, it's Dan now.
I'm
And
a
his dad just
man.
is taken aback. It's like, damn, okay. Like that's a pretty cool, you know moment, honestly, just having that, because they didn't have to put it in there. They didn't have to include any kind of story or subplot going on like that, but they did.
Yeah, or
um
resolution. They didn't have to resolve that.
yeah.
Like he's a kid who lost his way or whatever. Cool. So that's
Yeah,
the setup.
yeah, it's
That's it.
like big deal, and teenagers do it all the time. But
Yeah.
yeah, like, because that's just kind of, I mean, looking back on it, that is cinema, is having all these plots and subplots going on, and being able to harness all these things and manage these stories as they're happening and unfolding before you, and the audience following these different plots and subplots. Like, yeah, that's really why this first Turtles movie works, because it has all the elements that make it cinematic. Yeah, whereas The Secret of the Ooze was just, yeah, it's just a cartoon come to life. Again, like, I'm probably going to say that many times.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's I think it's objectively true that movie takes a lot more from the cartoon than this one did. This
Mhm.
first one takes a lot more from the comic books as its
Yeah,
inspiration. The cartoon was there. It'd been around, I think, by that point. When did it come out? Like 87, so 3 years by the time this movie came out. So it was already around for a year before they started production on the movie.
yeah,
But I think you're right too, is that there is a theme in the first one, and if I were to try and like describe it, it's the various different types of family that that might cause a situation like this. The turtles themselves have their family, and it's just them, and so they kind of have this, hey, we need to stick together family trope that they're all, that we're discussing, or that you see throughout the film. And then the Foot Clan very much has this found family feeling, which I don't think, in the second one, when you look at where the Foot are versus where they are in this one, I still don't even understand in the second one why any of those teenagers would want to join the Foot Clan. Like, at least in
right.
this one, they have a sweet hangout with skate
Yeah.
ramps and half pipes and arcade games and, free food. And there's just all kinds of stuff to do. So it's like, it seems almost like, well, yeah, duh, if Danny is having problems with his parents or whatever because he feels like they're authoritarians, and he's this rebellious teenager who likes the Sex Pistols and wears the Sid Vicious t-shirts and stuff like that,
Mhm.
like, yeah, that sounds like an awesome place to go. Some place where, like you said, they can do whatever they want, but whatever they want is a ton of fun. In
Mhm.
the second film, whatever they want is hanging out in a junkyard.
Yeah, in
Like,
sparring, it's like
yeah,
that's all they show.
yeah, like I would have assumed, if they had a junkyard set or whatever, that you would see like dudes on motorcycles, like Mad Max style, where it's like the
Yeah.
Thunderdome kind of a feeling. No, none of that. None of that.
Mhm.
It's literally just, hey, these are the bad guys, these are the good guys, and they don't like each other because these are the bad guys and they're
Right.
the good guys. Whereas in this one, it's like a lot more. I think that the word that I would use for it is like textured, and
Mhm.
that goes to what you were saying, is that there are several different subplots, there are several different things that are discussed, they're all brought together, that bring these like different layers of
Mhm.
why the characters are reacting the way they are, why they have these shifts. And I think that texture is really what makes this a better film thematically.
Mhm.
From a storytelling perspective, it's a better film because of that. And I just think it does what I feel like it set out to do better than Although maybe not, because the second one set out to be this family friendly live action cartoon that made them
Mhm.
a ton of money. So I guess they were successful in that goal. But
Sure.
from a film perspective, like telling a story, I think this first one does a much better job in a much more complex, satisfying way.
Yeah, I mean, even April O'Neil. I mean, she even has her own story arc, where she's trying to move up in the company, and then she keeps having beef with the chief of police,
Hmm.
and stepped over that line in the sand one too many times, gets fired, and then she has her redemption at the end. I mean, yeah, there's just so many intricate moving parts in this that just kind of all come to a head at the end, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's great.
I I even like in the April story how the newsroom situation actually has some kind of meaning,
Yeah.
and it has an effect within the story. You know, the
Mhm.
shot of the answering machine, which holy crap, how awesome it is to see one of those. I haven't seen
Right.
an answering machine in such a long time, but
Yeah.
it's like hanging from the thing, and you realize that Casey is the one that is the only person that hears the actual message, which is
Right.
a really great touch because it forces a piece of that relationship. It forces him to have to tell April this news that she's been fired, but also the reason she got fired actually makes sense within the context of the story.
Yeah.
Whereas again, I feel like in the second movie, it's kind of like oh, she has this adversarial relationship with the people in the newsroom and with the chief of police or whatever because they need to have an adversarial relationship for the story to continue, as
Yeah,
opposed
yeah.
to like the reason she has this adversarial relationship is because he's being bribed or controlled by the Foot Clan to drop the story because they don't want to be out in the public eye. They don't want people to know about that stuff. And the
Yeah.
chief of police is kind of also, a little what's the word? I'm corrupt. There's
Yeah.
corruption at the heart of that whole story. So just way cooler, I think, way cooler and more, again, meaningful and more depth than what we saw in the second one.
And this one definitely makes you think that the Foot Clan are actually capable of,
Hmm.
like, causing havoc, you know,
Hmm.
and like capable of beating people up and doing what they're set out to do. Like, because it really just seemed like they were so comical as far as their skill set and their ability to do martial arts in the Secret of the Ooze. They were just there as a vehicle to show off the turtles being able to kick and punch people, the bad guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, like these guys are following, um, that how that one kind of straggler figures out where they live in the sewer and then tells his boss, whatever. Like, yeah, they're more menacing in this one, and I like that.
That's a great way to put it. And I love that you say that they're more capable, because I think that that's objectively true in nearly every scene. The fact that they actually get the jump on the turtles multiple times in this movie is a testament to that. Whereas in the second one, I loved the scene as a kid, but again, the scene where the turtles go to TGRI to try and track down the history of the ooze, it's that is so much more of the typical kung fu trope where it's a bunch of
Mhm.
guys standing around just doing one of
Yes.
these, waiting to get their ass kicked,
Right.
and then even within that context, if you remove them from that situation, the only person out of the entire Foot Clan that has any kind of brains or capability is April's reporter, or tech friend, the camera
Yeah.
guy
Yeah.
that shows Shredder the plant that mutated and is like, "Hey, this thing is. I think this is something." He doesn't
Mhm.
know what it is, but at least he knows that there's something there. And then that's
Right.
it. That's the end of it. That's
Right.
that's his that's his contribution, and then he's done. Whereas in this situations where it's like, "Hey, it's the first time that the Foot experienced the turtles and these guys, and now they're like, hey, what are they? Let's do some reconnaissance. Let's figure out
Yeah.
what the deal is. Oh shoot, they're a threat. Let's attack them. Let's try and get the jump on them. Oh no, they got away. you know, we need to figure out how we can track them down again and make sure we get rid of them. Like that whole thing is not possible without the Foot Clan. Whereas in the second one, everything that happens in that movie, with the exception of Toka and, well, I mean, even with Toka and Razor, it really just requires Shredder and Tatsu. That's it. None
Yeah.
of the Foot is actually necessary other than the camera guy that, you know, shows them the ooze in the first place. That's it.
Speaking of Tatsu, in this one, I love it when that kid accidentally runs into him at the warehouse, and he
Go
gives him that look.
play.
I know, because he does this when he says play, he makes this motion.
Yeah.
Go play. It's like just twiddling his fingers. This means play. Go do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, I don't know.
Still the most
That just,
unnecessary character in a film that I can
I
think
know,
of
right?
is
Well,
Tatsu.
I mean, I guess because you could see in this one that he was at least there to help train the Foot, as far as the ones who are actually learning how to fight and spar and whatever. So at least we got to see that, as opposed to just ninja banish, you know.
Yeah,
like-
yeah. And as Brad pointed out, banish, not
Right.
vanish. Ninja, banish. Banish who are we
I
banishing?
know, like banish where?
That actually reminds me of another thing too. One of the things that documentary that's coming out, because when Arrow was originally releasing this set, in some of the pre-release kind of teaser announcements, they talked about having deleted scenes from the movies in their release, and they don't have any deleted scenes in this release. And the reason for that is because of licensing issues. And I guess that the licensing issues, by the time these guys released it, weren't resolved, but by the time that the documentary got their hands on them, they have been resolved. So the documentarians actually have exclusive license to them. And one of the scenes that is in there is a scene with Shredder fighting 5 or 6 of the teenagers that want to get in the Foot Clan. It's kind of like in the second one, how there's that scene where Kino has to get all the bells and stuff off in order to become a member of the Foot Clan.
Yeah.
There's a scene where 5 or 6 of these Foot pledges, I guess you would call them, fight Shredder while Shredder is sitting in a throne, and he defeats all of them without even getting up out of the chair. And apparently it's based on like a technique that that what's it called? Who's the production company? Golden Harvest. Harvest, the production company, based it on a scene from an older film that they did. I don't know if it was a Bruce Lee film, but it was a kung fu movie about a master teaching, you know, when you can dethrone me, then you can be the leader, kind of sort of a thing. And it hasn't been seen yet. So there's like some really grainy old like VHS versions of it that I've seen like screenshots from, but it's never actually been released. And I feel like if they had done that, then Tatsu would not even have really been necessary, because then you get that whole like you could show just, you know, your generic foot soldier commanders or whatever, and that would have been fine. I don't know. I'm so torn on the character of Tatsu. He's so unnecessary, but I just find him funny and he entertains me. So
Yeah, me too.
I also love the one scene where like him and Shredder are talking, and all of a sudden Tatsu has like a completely different voice. So you could tell it was like overdubbed. His mouth doesn't really match what he's saying, but they needed to like, you know, fix whatever the issue was that they couldn't. So they decided to fix it in post. So they're like, let's ADR so he just says that stuff.
Right. Yeah. Although there's man, yeah. Speaking of Tatsu, there is that one scene where he gets super pissed and starts breaking boxes and breaking things and starts hitting.
Yeah, when the turtles get away.
Foot Clan, and then he accidentally goes a little too far. Like, so yeah, he's got something. Again, this is really trying to come up with as many subplots as they can. So he's got something, but yeah, he still doesn't really have much of an arc. It's just he's there.
Well, he's a supplementary character to Shredder to make I think the whole, because again, if it was just Shredder, the entirety of the Foot Clan seems a little unbelievable. Like, why would this
Right.
guy that is scary and whatever, how would he be able to bring all these teenagers together? He's got to have other guys helping him along with that, and that's, I think, where
Mhm.
Tatsu's role is really filled in. There's actually a scene that was in the final movie. It's toned down. There's a lot of cuts in it, where Shredder gets pissed that Tatsu let the turtles get away, and he
Mm.
goes in and beats up one of the Foot Clan kids. And they apparently explicitly put it in the movie because they wanted to show the difference between Tatsu and Shredder. And in the
Oh,
original cut, the kid dies. Shredder literally kills
wow.
him. But in the final cut, what you see, they cut away from it so you don't actually see his body, and they add sound effects in post to have him like groaning, and then like there's like an off-screen kid that says like, "Oh my gosh, he really beat him up," or something like that, like
Yeah.
to try and make it see, because originally the kid was supposed to die, and it was
Mm.
supposed to be like, oh, Shredder's not messing around. Like Tatsu gets pissed and wrecks stuff and gets pissed off, but he's never killed any of us before. And it's like the
Right.
moment where they're supposed to realize that like this Shredder guy means business, but also maybe we're in over our heads. Maybe we should not be part of this group.
Ah.
And yeah, just watch that scene again. It's like crazy because there's very clearly footage missing of like the kid just completely out, and them being like, oh my God, like what the hell just happened?
Wow.
It's crazy.
That's interesting. You got that from
Um,
the behind the scenes stuff?
yeah, either behind the scenes or from that Turtle Power documentary.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
This it's all very fresh in my head because I kind of watched all of them back to back. I watched the second one along with the commentary. I watched the first one with just as is. Then I watched it with the
Mm.
commentary from Steve Barron, and then I watched it with the commentary that Arrow has on here with like I don't know. Again, I'm not really sure who these people are, but they either work a lot with Arrow or they're just like Arrow employees. But he's
Mm.
basically like a comic book expert or something. He's got like a podcast. He talks a lot about that stuff. And then the documentary really goes in depth with some of the stuff that talks a lot about the comic books and then how it made the transition from comic book to cartoon. But when they talk about the movies, there's a lot of cool information that they talk about. They even mention, which I'm curious how you feel about it, because I know Brad liked Judith Hogue better as April O'Neil
Mm.
versus Paige Turco. I'm still kind of torn on the two. I can't decide who I liked better as an actress, but they revealed that the reason that she was not Judith Hogue was not asked to come back for the movie is because apparently she was difficult to work with because she complained a lot about the conditions under which they were filming. Apparently,
Oh,
because of the tight schedule, I'm saying apparently so much. Because of the tight schedule, they worked 6 days a week, and it was like long days, like 12
wow.
plus hour days, six
Yeah.
days a week. And it wasn't so much for her that she was worried about, but she had made friends with a lot of the stunt performers. And because of how the suits were made, and because they were kind of like a first draft, nobody had ever really made these kind of full body suits. She was just worried about their health and
Mm.
about the stunt performers having to do all these acrobatics and suits that were literal sweat sponges that
Yeah.
I think the guy that plays Michelangelo at one point says in one of the interviews that it added like 40 pounds to the suit just from sweat alone
Ugh.
because it was foam. It's
Yeah.
foam, and it just, as the day goes on and on and on, they're sweating so much that when they call cut, they're literally filming 2-minute scenes. Every single action scene had to be cut after 2 minutes so they could take the heads off, and they couldn't take
Yeah.
the suits off, so they're literally just like trying to breathe and air out and get a little bit of respite amongst the filming.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
So apparently
Yeah.
that makes that somebody looking out for their coworkers apparently makes them difficult to work with.
Which is a shame because, yeah. I mean, honestly, though, she kind of dodged a bullet.
I don't
Because
disagree. I don't disagree.
if she would have come back for the Secret of the Ooze, and she's like, what is this script?
Hmm.
What did I get myself into? Because again, April in The Secret of the Ooze doesn't really have much of anything. She's just, again, there because the turtles know her. But yeah, there's no subplot regarding, well, I mean, again, like you pointed out, like there is some tension with her tenacity and her wanting to get the real story when there supposedly shouldn't be a story, and you shouldn't dig that deep. April, we're telling you not to dig that deep, but you just keep going after it. Stop doing that. So it's, hearkening back to the first one, of course, but done poorly. you
Yeah,
know
yeah. I feel like in the second one, her character is more of something for the turtles to play off of rather
yeah.
than her own character, and I think that that's super lazy from the perspective of like she's a character that is literally the turtles' best friend if you don't count Casey Jones.
Mhm.
Or Kino in the second one. I guess Kino kind of fills that role. That's the other thing that they said that Judith Hogue was difficult because she didn't want to wear the yellow jumpsuit that April is known for
Right.
from the cartoons and stuff because she didn't
Yep.
really have that in the comic book since it was a black and white comic. But in
Yeah.
the cartoon, they were like, yeah, let's make it bright. So they kind of like nod to it when she wears that yellow raincoat. But it's
Right.
like at least in the first one, April is a fully fleshed out person. In the
Yes.
second one, it's literally she's just there so that the turtles have temporary housing. And
Right.
so, Kino can show up at her apartment at some point to become suspicious.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's
That's
kind of
that's
her
what it is.
role. And I think that that sucks.
Yeah.
That really sucks.
Yeah. Because I honestly, if they would have asked, um, what's her name again from the first one?
Judith Hogue.
Yeah, if they would have asked Judith Hogue back and she read the script, she would have passed. you know.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. Just
she
taking
might
a look
have.
at it, she'd be like, yeah, this means nothing to me. I'm not my own fleshed out character. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Which it's really funny to me too that they kind of went that route because even in the comic books, like Peter Eastman and Kevin Laird. I don't know why I have such a. They're like one unit to me. They're a
Right.
single person that's an amalgamation of each other's qualities.
Yeah.
When they wrote the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic, uh, it was a black and white comic. The cover art, they had an edition that was color, and all the turtles had red bandanas. So
Yeah.
they weren't even their own characters. They didn't have their own personalities. The only way you could tell them apart was by their weapons. They
Yeah.
literally just didn't put that much thought into them being individual people.
Mhm.
And so after the first comic outsold, all of their wildest expectations and they started working on more issues, they actually had this moment where they were like, we need to we need to be able to differentiate between them. And so they released one shots for each turtle. There's a Leonardo one shot, a Raphael, Donatello, Michelangelo. They each got their own issue where it did a separate story. And that's actually the story where Raphael meets Casey Jones. The scene where
Ah.
those dudes steal that lady's purse and
Mhm.
Raphael knocks them out and they run off and then Casey goes after him and Raphael's like, "Whoa, that dude's gonna kill him." That comes from that Raphael one shot. It's a
Mm.
one of my favorite comic books of all time. It's a really good story, and the thing that I like the most about it is that when they were trying to figure out the personalities of the different turtles, Leonardo was the obvious one because they needed to pick a leader. And
Yeah.
so they were like, okay, he's going to be the monk guy. He's super into the martial arts. He's really, disciplined and
Mhm.
yada, yada, yada. And then the rest of the turtles, Donatello's the smart one. Michelangelo it was funny because Michelangelo was supposed to be like the angry one in this first movie. And they kind of ended up changing it to Raphael. But
Ah.
Raphael was supposed to be the one that was sarcastic and specifically violent. And the
Mm.
whole introduction, I know I texted you this, but obviously anybody watching wouldn't know this. Casey Jones was originally supposed to be just Batman. That was his character. And the original sketch of him is with a harness on his back with 5 baseball bats, so that when he broke one of the bats, he could literally just grab the next one and keep on kicking ass. And the whole reason he was introduced was because every single turtle in these one shots needed a foil. It needed a reason why they were who they were. And Raphael's arc was supposed to be as the one that exclusively from the team relied on violence to fix the situations that he saw, or
Yeah.
the issues with the world that he saw. They
Right.
wanted him to see somebody that took violence to the nth degree, to the point where even Raphael would be like, whoa, like this guy is gonna kill, to again the point of being Batman. Casey Jones was supposed to be Batman, but without the "I don't kill people" mantra.
Yeah.
That was gonna be Raphael. And so Casey Jones is introduced as like this character that is literally ready to kill these 2 muggers for stealing a purse. And the only reason he doesn't is because Raphael gets in his way. And that's what causes that initial confrontation, which we see almost verbatim in the movie, which is awesome because, again, it harkens back to that old tone. And then, it also kind of plays into the reason why the turtles are even given the weapons that they have. Leonardo is supposed to be the "I don't kill people" and martial arts are a defensive weapon. So he's the one given the katana, which is the only offensive weapon in the entire group.
Yeah.
Michelangelo is given the nunchucks because he's the ADHD party dude, and nunchucks need precision and focus. Otherwise, you're hitting yourself all the time.
Mhm.
Donatello, I forget what his is, but it's the bow staff is typically used as form. It's meant to be
Yeah.
one of those things that intimidates your enemy, whereas Donatello is supposed to be the thinker. And then
Right.
Raphael, he's the angry one that has the sais, but sais are also defensive weapons. The only reason sais are really supposed to be used is against katanas and against
Yep.
weapons, so that you can
To
trap them
catch the
within the
blades.
exactly, and then
Yeah.
spin them and disarm your opponent, so
Right.
that the angry guy doesn't have a weapon that's meant to be violent and aggressive. It's meant to be a
Mhm.
defensive thing. And the first one shows those things so well. There's so many scenes that they show those character personalities, those character traits in the turtles,
Yeah.
completely absent in the second one.
Yeah.
It literally got dumbed down to Raphael is the petulant child,
Right.
Michelangelo is the 5-year-old, Donatello is the super hacker genius man, and
Mhm.
Leonardo is the leader because reasons.
Right. Yeah, man. But even then, this first one goes into, I mean, you kinda hit on it. This first one goes into spirituality and, like,
Mm-hmm.
um, being a monk and being, in tune with the spiritual world and stuff. That whole scene on the farm where
With the
they
fire.
summon Splinter, in the fire. It's like, yeah, you don't see anything like that in Secret of the Ooze. So again, just this another little element that just kind of makes it interesting, because once again, they didn't have to have that. They didn't have to show some like meditation moment and being able to speak with someone from a long distance, but they did. And
Well, and
I think it
I
worked well.
yeah, and I especially like the way that that scene is presented, because it's kind of ambiguous. Like if you want to believe in the supernatural parts, or not necessarily the supernatural, but the spiritual parts of kung fu,
Yeah.
and that you're tied to your ancestors and that we're all connected in these various ways. Like that scene plays out exactly the same way, whether you believe that they actually summoned Splinter, or whether they just, the 4 turtles between them are finally realizing like all the things that Splinter has been telling them this whole time, all of the familial connections, the hey, you know me well, you know what I would want you to do, you know what each other, or what is valuable to each other, and how you complement each other. Whether you take it the literal way or the more figurative way, that scene still works. And it
Yeah.
works so well because of they did it, in the fire with blue flames.
Mhm.
It's very apparent that it's like it could be happening or it could not be happening. You can take it however you want and it still has the same effect on the story regardless of that. And I love that. What an
Yeah.
effective scene.
Yeah. Yeah. And just the whole, I mean, it's, I don't know. I don't know how much of a trope it was in 1990. But I mean, you could even say which Avengers movie is it where they go to the farm? And Captain America and you know T- Tony Stark like have a little spat and like
Mhm.
conversation at the farm, and just so they can kind of regroup and whatever. I mean, obviously, I don't think they took notes from this Ninja Turtles movie, so it's probably just kind of a thing you do every once in a while. But who knows? Maybe they did. Maybe they're like, they need to just kind of go somewhere and hang low for a while. Might as well go out to a farm. So, like, yeah, this uh, it seems like it could be just like a rolling your eye kind of trope, but again, it just kind of works because they're
Yeah.
letting Raph heal, and then yeah, it's cool. I like it.
And I like too how within that kind of the trope of going to the farm to regroup, recover, recoup, or whatever, they even because again, when you're writing a movie, like you can do whatever you want. You literally have options. I think not to go off on too big of a tangent, but like one of the biggest complaints I hear about the movie Man of Steel is when Superman has to spoiler alert, when Superman has to kill Zod at the end because he's, getting ready to kill a family. And
Yeah.
people's complaints about that, the one that I hear repeatedly is that they didn't have to do that. When you're a writer, you don't have to put your character in that situation if you don't want to. You can literally
Right.
do whatever you want. And I appreciate that in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, not only do they get to the farm, but they force them to stay on the farm because that van breaks down. You see it
Yeah.
smoking as it's going down the thing because ultimately they could be there for however long they wanted to. Raph could run away, but when it's established right from the beginning that they don't even have transportation out of there, now you give every single character a reason for being stuck on the farm,
Hmm.
stuck for being in the situation they're in, or a reason for being in the situation they're in. You give like Michelangelo, you give him a reason to be restless because he wants to go out. You give Raphael a reason to be angry and to, feel helpless and wonder why can't they do anything. It's because they literally can't leave.
Yeah.
Donatello is helping Casey Jones fix the truck that they find in the barn
Right.
and yada yada yada, but they have like a reason for being there. It's not just a plot convenience, which again, when you can write whatever you want, yeah, you can make it extremely convenient like that. But for them to take that and make a reason for them to be there and then use that to tell the story is like it's really
Yeah.
good. It's really good. I'm genuinely
Yeah.
surprised at how much better this movie was than I thought it was going to be. Because again, when we started talking with Brad, I was sure that the second movie was better than the first one, and just that
Yeah.
that I liked it as a kid better. So that I'm probably going to like it as an adult better. No,
Mhm.
quite the opposite.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thoughtfulness and a lot of really intentional stuff that they do in this first movie that is completely gone in the second one.
I remember seeing a thread just yesterday that said Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a better superhero movie than anything that came out between like 95 and 2007. And I mean, I've, although, trying to think back, like, oh, geez, what superhero things did come out. Um, but I mean, I probably have to disagree with like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. Like Spider-Man, especially Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is, I think, one of the greatest
I
comic book
agree.
adaptations out there. But I mean, that comment was kind of stretching it, but at the same time, I mean, yeah,
I
it's
think
a really
in
good
general
movie.
I agree with that. There's definitely exceptions to that because I can't think of every movie that came out during that
Exactly.
time period. But I think I would agree with that. It's a very very good comic book movie, not just because of the fact that it's a good movie, but it's very, very respectful of the source material, like almost to a point of it being a flaw, because I think that some of my criticisms of the first movie really focus on the fact that they tried to stick so much to the comic books
Mm.
from everything, costumes and otherwise, that there's some like impracticalities that aren't as strong. You know, like we talked about with the masks and the lack of facial expression and stuff.
Yeah.
Like some of that could have been a little bit better, but that's also maybe a product of when it was released more so than them
Yeah.
just trying to focus on the source material. I saw some when Golden Harvest, there's behind the scenes footage that you can see when Golden Harvest first got involved, like they wanted to make the movie as cheaply as possible. So they were basically like, hey, we've got a bunch of kung fu actors in China. We're going to film this movie in China. We're going to just put, we're going to have actors in green bodysuits. And when I say bodysuits, I mean like the green screen guy, whatever, I forget what that's called,
Oh
whatever.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
they were just literally going to strap shells onto their backs wearing green spandex and then have like their faces painted up and stuff with like a prosthetic on the front, Planet of the Apes style. It looks bad. It's really bad.
Whoa.
It's so
Yeah.
terrible. I'm so glad that they didn't want to do that. I'm glad Steve Barron had the vision that he had, because he was like, that ain't gonna cut it, guys.
No, just you describing that, like,
Oh man,
seems
it's
like it's
bad.
nightmare fuel.
It's bad. It's pretty damn bad. But again, they had he had a singular vision. They knew what they were going off of. And I think it does it better in every way. There's so little about this movie that I find fault in that isn't explained by the fact that it was made in 1990, that it was made when, this has never been done before, and these
Yeah.
animatronics are the first time they're ever on screen. And it's just, even the use of that scene where they're telling, where Splinter is explaining to Danny the backstory, and they film that on Super 8 to give it that really
Yeah.
like old school view. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. It's
Yeah.
fantastic how they show that, especially with the black matted like backdrop behind everything. Because again, they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to do it that way. They chose to, and I love the choice for that.
Yeah, I really I mean we've been going for about an hour now, so we should probably wrap it up pretty soon. But I do want to hit on the fact that, like, not only is it thematically superior, uh comparing it to Secret of the Ooze, but the lighting, just the fact that it looks like a movie. The lighting in Secret of the Ooze, everything is so well lit. I mean,
Yeah,
that
Fulbright.
I don't think there's a shadow ever in Secret of the Ooze. But yeah, there's just so much attention to detail. And yeah, I just really enjoy the fact that they took something like the Ninja Turtles. It's my dog. Can you hear my dog?
Yeah, it's okay,
That
bud.
they took something like the Ninja Turtles and yet still wanted to give it, just the as much effort as they could to make it cinematic as they could. And
Yeah,
like, yeah, it's instead of just trying to make it for kids,
yeah.
they're like,
Well, one of the questions that I have on my list for these sequelitis or prequelitis shows that we were planning on doing, which I feel like we've already talked about, but the question is, do you feel like the sequels were made out of passion or out of profit? What
oh,
what was the incentive? And I think, yeah, to your point, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 to me seems way less respectful of everything Ninja Turtles um, than the first one, but more so because I feel like the director and the people behind it were focusing on the cartoon as the source material versus this one that
yes.
focused on the comic books as the source material. And you can tell that the director of this one, Steve Barron, has passion for the project he was working on, but just an immense respect for that source material.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. My opinion of both movies has changed drastically in doing this. So thank you for the suggestion. I don't know which one of us suggested TMNT, but um,
Yeah.
completely changed my perspective on both movies.
Yeah, dude. Um I mean, yeah,
Also,
it's
Casey Jones straight up kills Shredder. Straight up murders the guy because
yeah,
number one, he moves the garbage truck into
right.
position as if he had anticipated that that's what was going to happen. And then
Uh,
when he lands in there, like that's not enough. He's got to walk over and
mhm.
whoops.
Oops. Yeah.
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 Wild. Absolutely wild.
Yeah.
That was okay, but them, using nunchucks, no, not
I know,
okay.
right? Because they even show his helmet getting crushed. It's like,
Hmm. Actually, that's the only
it's
reason
not
they were allowed
bloody.
to do it. That's the only reason they were allowed to do it was because it
Yeah,
only showed the helmet. It's
right.
so stupid. It's
Yeah,
so
it's
stupid.
not bloody, but you definitely know what happened. Well, apparently, because obviously in Secret of the Ooze, you realize that wasn't enough.
Hmm.
He survived.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Boo.
Well, great.
Any
That
other
was fun.
questions on
I, I
that
don't
list?
I don't have any other that we didn't cover.
Yeah.
Mostly I asked, did you have any thoughts on progressions or regressions of the cast, which we kind of talked about?
Yeah.
Judah Hogue. I do think that not having Casey Jones in the second movie also was a bad decision. He's
Yeah.
such a great character, adds so much to this first movie, especially as just like the audience stand-in of like, what the hell are these turtles? What's going
Hmm.
on? April has her moment, and then he has his moment, and I really like the way that they interplay those together.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I
It
don't.
just seems like every character had their moment or was, you know, pivotal in
Yeah, there's a reason.
having,
There's a
yeah,
reason for them
there,
being
there's
there.
a reason they're there. So,
Yeah. It's even funny because one of the scene where they're fighting in the apartment or in the shop, the apartment with the shop underneath it,
yeah.
where Raph crashes through the glass. In the behind the scenes, they talked about how Casey Jones is in the scene and that he's like, I'll cover you guys. And
Right.
everybody, all the turtles leave. And part of the reason for that is because they had live fire in the apartment. They had to make like a perimeter
Oh,
fire. And they were genuinely afraid that the foam on the turtle outfits would catch fire and be
oh
like a
yeah.
disaster for them. So they had to kind of like tweak that scene to be like, okay, if we can't have the turtles filmed when once the fire starts, it had to be very, very controlled when they were doing it. So they were like,
Hmm.
well, we'll have Casey come in and kind of help shuttle them. And then even that, they give him a reason, for not wanting to go in the sewers and that whole thing.
Right.
Like, I don't know if that was just kismet of the side effect of them having to do that or not, or if that was intentional from the beginning. But like, you again, you're giving them a play against like this is the guy that basically has the same end goal as the turtles, which is he doesn't like crime. He sees as a vigilante. Apparently there's a deleted scene of Casey Jones that was supposed to start the movie off. It was the very opening scene of the movie of him
Oh,
watching the news with his remote control, and he grabs a bat from the table and is like, I've had enough of this. And then it cuts into the next scene where the movie actually starts now.
oh, huh.
But that kind of stuff, like you have this juxtaposition, and it's not just a juxtaposition of the characters, but of the concepts that we were talking about before. Of they both have the same goal. Casey's willing to kill people. The turtles
Hmm.
aren't really willing to kill people. And then April wants the problem to stop as well, but she's getting it from a journalistic perspective. And then, like, what are the differences between them all within that spectrum?
Yeah.
I love how this movie does that. I love how this movie tells a story. I love how this movie is a piece of artwork that stands up for itself and tells its own thing, and just so impressed. Again, surprised that my opinion of this movie changed as much as it did.
Oh, I will say it is not content.
No, not at all.
It's cinema.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. Passion,
Yeah.
passion versus profit for sure.
Yeah. For sure.
For sure. All right. Well, that
Yeah.
was excellent. I really enjoyed talking about that. Again, if you haven't seen it, grab the kit.
I
If you're
think
a
I just saw
subscriber,
yesterday that the price went down to $50 again for that
woohoo,
set. So if
pick it
you're
up.
wanting to get the trilogy, again, not necessarily because you want to see all the movies, but definitely for all the behind the scenes stuff, Highly
It's worth it
recommend
for the
picking
first
it
two
up.
movies, even though the
Yeah.
second one isn't as good as the first one to me anymore. The behind the scenes on it is fantastic, and the 4K, the new 4K remaster of it or whatever is really, really good. It
Mm.
maintains the quality and the tone of both movies, even though they're wildly different.
Yeah.
So it's a good release for those two alone. I think it's worth the price. There's some really cool goodies on there, which I don't want to get too much into, but if people want to, hear about them, I'm happy to do like a opening of the box and kind of go through all that stuff if anybody wants to see it.
You should, honestly, and that
It's
might
cool.
be something that we put up for the paid subscribers on our, or the paid subscribers on our Substack. So speaking of,
Yeah.
please join our Substack, hiddenmovieclub.substack.com. We've got giveaways, we've got exclusive content.
Oh yeah, thanks for mentioning that. The giveaway. We didn't give away a movie from the last after the credits. So this is totally up for giveaway. If you don't already own it, subscribe to a paid tier on Substack and you'll be entered in for a chance to win the box set of the TMNT trilogy.
Come on, people.
$5
what
a
else
month.
do you need to know? Yeah, $5 a month.
If you don't win, unsubscribe after that if that's the only movie you care about. I mean, please, it'd be great for you to keep following us, but get your chance to win that. I think it's well worth it for the price of the set. And again, kudos to Arrow for all the exclusive stuff that they did for this release, because it's really, really, really good. To me, makes it well worth it, and honestly reminds me of how Blu-rays or DVDs used to be.
Yeah.
You don't see them like this anymore, so it's a great release. I really appreciate it.
Arrow's doing some really cool work in the physical media space. So
Agreed.
All right. Well, yeah, join us next week for After the Credits with Brad, Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be doing Ben-Hur. So if you have it, watch it. If you don't,
No, just kidding.
Yes, for the
Ben-they/them. It's not even spelled the same way. That was a terrible joke. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So yeah, do that. Everyone, you're cool. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you're listening to the podcast version, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for talking, Elon. Thanks for everyone watching. We love you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Peace.